I never imagined my wedding night would end with my heart in pieces on the floor. This is not your room. Your chambers are next door. My heart belongs to another. That was how the wedding night ended, with the woman who had dreamed of marriage discovering that the Alpha King saw her as nothing more than a political convenience. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I ended up standing in that cold, elegant chamber, wearing a silver wedding gown and feeling my entire world crumble. My name is Naomi Fairchild, and I'm a healer. Not just any healer. I come from a long line of gifted women who could mend broken bones, cure fevers, and ease pain with just a touch of our hands. My mother was the most talented of us all. She died stopping a plague that would have wiped out 3 packs. And I was 16 when I watched her give everything to save others. That's what healers do. We give. So when Alpha King Harris Greystone began courting me 6 months ago, I thought maybe, just maybe, the universe was giving something back to me for once. Harris wasn't like other alphas I'd met. He was quieter, more thoughtful. He had these steel-gray eyes that seemed to see right through you. And when he smiled, which wasn't often, it felt like the sun breaking through storm clouds. We took long walks through the palace gardens. He asked about my healing work, actually listened when I explained the properties of different herbs. Once, he almost kissed me under the old oak tree, but pulled back at the last second. I told myself he was being respectful, taking things slow. I was so stupid. The wedding was beautiful. 300 guests, of flowers imported from the Southern Territories, a dress that took seamstresses 3 weeks to create. The silver fabric caught the light like moon water, and when I walked down that long aisle toward Harris, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Something that looked like awe. For one perfect moment, I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. The ceremony ended. We danced. We smiled for all the important people. And then, finally, we were alone in his chambers. That's when everything shattered. Harris closed the door behind us, and I turned to face him, my heart racing with anticipation and nerves. But he didn't move toward me. He stayed by the door, his jaw tight, his eyes looking anywhere but at me. "Naomi," he said, his voice formal and cold. "There's something you need to understand." The way he said it made my stomach drop, as I knew before he even continued that whatever came next would hurt. This marriage is political, nothing more. 4 words, that's all it took to destroy everything I'd believed. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He kept talking, each word landing like a physical blow. "My heart is bound elsewhere. To Clara Ironwood. We share a blood oath from childhood." Clara, the daughter of Counselor Maddox Ironwood, one of the most powerful men in the kingdom. I'd seen her at court, beautiful, sharp-eyed, always watching Harris with possessive intensity. I'd noticed, of course I had, but I'd pushed it aside. Harris was courting me, not her, except he wasn't, not really. The council insisted on this union, Harris continued, still not meeting my eyes. "You're a healer of exceptional skill, and the kingdom needs that alliance. But don't expect anything beyond what's required for appearances." I stood there in my beautiful wedding dress, feeling like the biggest fool in the world. All those walks, those conversations, those almost kisses, none of it meant anything. I was just a political asset, a useful tool. Pride is a strange thing. It can hold you together when everything else is falling apart. I lifted my chin and met his gaze directly. "Then don't expect anything from me either. Not my tears, not my pleas, and certainly not my heart." For just a second, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or regret. But it vanished so quickly I might have imagined it. "Your chambers are prepared next door," he said. "The maid will show you." I turned and walked out. I didn't run, didn't cry, didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. The maid led me to a room adjacent to his, close enough to maintain appearances, far enough to make the rejection clear. The moment the door closed behind me, I heard it. Laughter. A woman's laughter, coming from Harris's chambers through the shared wall. Clara was already there. They were together. Right now. On my wedding night. That's when I finally let myself collapse. I sank to the cold stone floor, my elaborate silver dress pooling around me like liquid moonlight, and I cried. Not gentle tears, harsh, gasping sobs that tore through my chest. Through the wall, I could hear their voices. Clara's tone was intimate, teasing. Harris's responses were soft, warmer than I'd ever heard him speak to me. I don't know how long I cried. Hours, maybe. Eventually, I had no tears left. I stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at myself. As my eyes were swollen and red, my carefully styled hair had come loose. My face was blotchy and marked with dried tears. But underneath all that, I saw something else. Something harder. Stronger. I was Naomi Fairchild, daughter of the woman who sacrificed herself to save hundreds. I'd held dying children in my arms and pulled them back from death's door. I'd set broken bones, treated battle wounds, faced down infections that made seasoned healers run in fear. I would survive this too. By the time the sun rose, I'd made my decision. If Harris wanted a political arrangement, I'd give him exactly that. Nothing more, nothing less. I wouldn't beg, wouldn't cry for him, wouldn't waste another moment hoping for something that was never going to happen. I called for the maids and requested a bath. While they prepared it, I carefully removed the wedding dress and folded it away. I would never wear it again. When I dressed for breakfast, I chose a deep forest green gown. Not bridal white. Not passive. Strong. I was done being the rejected bride. Now I would show them all exactly who Naomi Fairchild really was. The great hall was already filled with nobles when I entered for breakfast. I could feel their eyes on me, curious, pitying, hungry for gossip. News traveled fast in the palace. They all knew I'd spent my wedding night alone. I kept my spine straight and my face serene. I'd practiced this expression in the mirror that morning. Calm, composed, untouchable. Harris was already seated at the head of the long table. He looked up when I entered, and I saw something flash across his face. Surprise, I think. He'd expected me to hide in my rooms, maybe, to cry and sulk and make a scene. Instead, I walked to my designated seat with perfect posture, my footsteps measured and graceful. Every eye in the room followed me. "Your Majesty," I said, my voice clear and formal. Not Harris, not my husband, just the title. "Naomi," he replied, his brow furrowing slightly. "Did you sleep well?" I met his gaze directly. As well as could be expected, given the circumstances. Silence rippled across the table. Several nobles shifted uncomfortably. Clara, seated 3 places down from Harris, watched me with narrow eyes. I served myself from the platters in front of me. Eggs, fresh bread, fruit. My hands were perfectly steady. I ate with deliberate calm, as if this were any normal morning, as if my heart hadn't been ripped apart just hours ago. Harris tried again. "Naomi, about last night." "There's nothing to discuss, Your Majesty," I interrupted gently but firmly. "You made your position clear. I respect that." I saw confusion cross his face. Maybe even disappointment. What had he expected? Tears? Anger? Dramatic confrontations? I finished my meal, dabbed my lips with the napkin, and stood. "Excuse me. I have duties to attend to." I left without waiting for permission, without looking back. The moment I was out of the great hall, I allowed myself one deep, shaky breath. My hands were trembling now, but I'd done it. I'd faced him and everyone else with dignity intact. I spent the rest of that first morning exploring the parts of the palace I'd never seen before. The healing wing was outdated and poorly supplied. The storage rooms were disorganized. The medicinal garden was overgrown. of valuable herbs choking under weeds. It was perfect. I found the head housekeeper, a stern woman named Molly who'd been running the palace staff for 30 years. "I'd like to reorganize the healing wing," I told her, "and I'll need gardeners to help restore the medicinal garden." Molly studied me with sharp eyes. "The last 3 queens never bothered with the healing wing." "I'm not the last 3 queens," I said simply. Something like approval flickered across her face. "I'll assign you 2 gardeners and get you the supplies you need." "Thank you." By afternoon, I'd opened the healing wing's doors to anyone who needed care. Word spread quickly. Within hours, I had my first patient, a young maid named Elise with an infected wound on her hand. She was terrified, convinced she'd lose the hand if it wasn't treated soon, and I examined the wound carefully. The infection was bad, but not beyond saving. "This will hurt," I warned her. "But I can save your hand." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I placed my hands over the wound and let my healing magic flow. It started as warmth in my chest, then traveled down my arms and into my palms. The girl gasped as the infection began to drain. I worked carefully, methodically, drawing out the poison and knitting the damaged tissue back together. When I finished, her hand was pink and healthy. The wound had closed completely. Elise stared at her hand, then at me. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you so much." "You're welcome. Keep it clean and come back if there's any pain." She left with grateful tears, and I felt something shift inside me. This was what mattered. Not broken hearts or cold husbands or political marriages. This work. These people. Over the next week, more patients came. Servants who'd suffered for years with untreated ailments. Children with fevers. An elderly gardener with terrible arthritis in his hands. I treated them all, and with each person I healed, I felt stronger. The castle staff began to love me. I learned their names, asked about their families, treated them with respect. I was accessible in a way queens rarely were. I heard the whispers, the comparisons between me and Clara. The new queen actually cares about us. Clara Ironwood never lifted a finger to help anyone but herself. Did you see how she healed my daughter? The fever broke in minutes. I didn't encourage the talk, but I didn't discourage it either. Let them see the difference. One afternoon, I was in the garden gathering herbs when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to find Clara herself standing there, dressed in an expensive purple gown, her dark hair perfectly arranged. "Your Majesty," she said, and the title sounded like mockery in her mouth. "How industrious you are, playing in the dirt." I stood, brushing soil from my hands. "I'm gathering medicinal herbs. Feverfew for headaches, chamomile for anxiety, though I suppose you wouldn't know about such things." Her eyes flashed. "I know more than you think." "I'm sure you do." I kept my voice level, unimpressed. Clara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I hope you understand your place here. Harris and I have history, a bond deeper than any ceremony." "I understand perfectly," I said, meeting her gaze. "You're welcome to him, and I have more important work to do." I walked away, leaving her standing there with surprise written across her face. My hands were shaking, but I didn't let her see. That evening, I was in the healing wing treating a child with a persistent cough when I sensed someone watching me. I glanced up to see Harris standing in the doorway. Our eyes met for just a moment. He looked, I don't know, confused, maybe, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. I turned back to my patient, dismissing him without a word. Let him watch, let him see what he threw away. I finished treating the child, sent her home with her grateful mother, then cleaned and organized my supplies. When I finally looked up again, Harris was gone. That night, alone in my chambers, I allowed myself to feel the exhaustion. The constant performance of strength was draining, but I couldn't stop now. Couldn't let anyone see the cracks. I stood at my window, looking out over the moonlit gardens, and made myself a promise. I would build a life here, a meaningful life. If I couldn't have love, I would have purpose. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. I didn't know it then, but Harris was watching me. He told me later, much later, that it started the morning after our wedding night. He'd expected me to fall apart, to make scenes, to demand his attention. Instead, I'd walked into breakfast with my head high and treated him like a stranger. It unsettled him. Then I disappeared into my work, and he couldn't stop tracking my movements. He knew my schedule without meaning to learn it. Healing wing in the morning, garden at noon, library in the afternoon, clinic until evening. He'd catch glimpses of me in hallways and feel something stir in his chest. His wolf, the animal part of him that all alphas carried, would become restless when I was near. He didn't understand it. He had Clara. The blood oath bound them together. So why couldn't he stop thinking about his wife? But I didn't know any of this yet. I was too busy building my new life to notice Harris's growing confusion. 3 weeks after the wedding, I was in the library researching a rare respiratory illness when I heard voices approaching. I recognized Harris's deep tone and ducked behind a shelf, not wanting another awkward encounter. "You've been distracted," a man's voice said. "Counselor Maddox Ironwood, Clara's father." "The council has noticed." "I'm handling my duties," Harris replied. "Are you?" Because you seem far more interested in watching your wife play healer than in actually governing." Silence. Then Harris spoke, his voice tight. "What I do with my time is my concern." "The blood oath binds you to my daughter," Maddox said. "Don't forget that. Clara should be queen in more than just name. Clara has no interest in the people. Naomi has opened a clinic, reorganized the healing wing, and earned genuine respect in 3 weeks. What has Clara done?" I held my breath, pressed against the bookshelf. "Clara will be queen," Maddox said coldly. "One way or another, the oath ensures it." Their footsteps faded. I stayed hidden for several minutes, my heart pounding. There was something in Maddox's tone, a threat. I pushed it aside and returned to my research. I had patients who needed me. That evening, and I was treating an elderly woman with severe joint pain when Harris appeared again. This time, he didn't just watch from the doorway. He entered. "May I observe?" he asked. I glanced up, surprised. "It's your palace, Your Majesty. You don't need my permission." "I'm asking anyway." I gestured for him to stay, then returned my attention to my patient. I placed my hands on the woman's swollen knees and let my magic flow. The warmth spread from my palms into her joints, reducing inflammation and easing pain. The woman sighed with relief. "Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Your Majesty." "Come back in 3 days," I told her. "We'll do another treatment." After she left, Harris was still there. "That was remarkable," he said quietly. "It's what I do." I didn't look at him, busy organizing my supplies. "I never realized how powerful your gift was." "You never asked." The words came out sharper than I intended. I saw him flinch slightly. "Naomi, is there something you need, Your Majesty? I have another patient waiting." He studied me for a long moment. "No, nothing." He left, and I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The next day, Molly found me in the garden. "The king has approved your request for additional medical supplies. He's also assigned 3 more staff members to the healing wing." I looked up, surprised. "He did?" "Signed the order this morning. Said the queen's work was too important to be under-resourced." Something warm flickered in my chest, but I pushed it down. He felt guilty, that's all. This didn't mean anything. Still, when the supplies arrived that afternoon, expensive herbs from the Southern Territories, rare medicines I'd only dreamed of having access to, new surgical tools, I couldn't help feeling grudgingly grateful. That night, I was reading in my chambers when I heard voices through the wall again. Harris and Clara. But this time, the tone was different. "You've been avoiding me," Clara said, her voice sharp. "I've been busy." "Too busy for me? Your blood-bound mate?" "The kingdom requires my attention." "The kingdom? Or your little healer wife?" Silence. Then Clara's voice again, softer, more seductive. "Come to bed, Harris. Let me remind you what we have together." I waited for his response, hating myself for listening but unable to stop. "Not tonight, Clara. I have work to finish." "Work? You're lying. You're thinking about her." "Don't be ridiculous. I see how you watch her. Like you're starving and she's a feast you can't have." "Enough, Clara. The blood oath binds you to me. Not her, me. Don't forget that." I heard footsteps, then a door slamming. Then silence. I sat in the darkness, processing what I'd heard. Harris was watching me? I'd noticed him appearing more often, but I'd assumed it was just coincidence. Or guilt. I pushed the thought away. It didn't matter. Even if he regretted his choice, he'd made it clear where his loyalties lay. I wouldn't be anyone's second choice. The next morning, I was in the garden when I heard unfamiliar voices at the palace entrance. Visitors. I paid little attention until Molly rushed out to find me. "Your Majesty, there's someone here to see you. Alpha Ronan Ashwood from the Northern Territories." I frowned. "I don't know any Alpha Ronan. He's here for diplomatic meetings with the king, but he specifically asked to meet you. Said he's heard remarkable things about the kingdom's new healer queen." I brushed dirt from my hands and followed Molly inside. Alpha Ronan Ashwood was waiting in the entrance hall, and he was nothing like I expected. Where Harris was all dark intensity and brooding silence, Ronan was warm and open. He had sandy hair that caught the light, brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled, and an easy charm that put people immediately at ease. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly. "I'm honored to meet you. The reports of your healing skills have reached even the Northern Territories." "You're too kind," I replied. "Welcome to the palace. I hope I'm not interrupting your work. I know you're busy." "Not at all. How can I help you?" "Actually, I was hoping you might share some of your knowledge. We've been struggling with a respiratory illness in the north. Traditional treatments aren't working." I brightened. Finally, someone who wanted to talk about healing, not politics or alliances or blood oaths. "I've been researching respiratory illnesses. Come to the library. I'll show you what I've found." We spent the next 2 hours discussing medical theories, herbal remedies, and treatment approaches. Ronan was surprisingly knowledgeable about northern herbs, and we discovered several combinations that might help his people. "You're brilliant," he said at one point, his admiration genuine. "No wonder Harris married you." I laughed bitterly. "Trust me, my healing ability was the only reason." Ronan's smile faded. "I'm sorry. Oh, that was tactless of me." "It's fine. I've made peace with the situation." "Have you?" He studied me carefully. "You seem lonely." The observation was so unexpected, so accurate, that I felt tears prick my eyes. I blinked them back quickly. "I have my work," I said. "That's enough." Before Ronan could respond, I sensed someone else in the library. I turned to find Harris standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "Ronan," he said, his voice tight. "I didn't expect to find you here." "Harris, your wife has been incredibly helpful. We've been discussing—" "I'm sure." Harris's eyes were on me, intense and unsettling. "Naomi, may I speak with you?" "I'm currently with Alpha Ronan. Now please." The command in his voice made my wolf, the small part of shifter nature I carried as a healer, bristle. I stood, keeping my expression neutral. "Excuse me, Alpha Ronan. I'll send you my notes on those herbal combinations." "Thank you, Your Majesty. For everything." I followed Harris out of the library, down the corridor, and into an empty council room. He closed the door behind us. What is it? I asked, keeping my voice level. What were you doing with Ronan? Discussing medicine. He has a respiratory illness affecting his pack. You were laughing with him. I heard you from the corridor. I stared at him. Is that a problem? He's a visiting alpha. You should maintain proper distance. Something hot and angry flared in my chest. Proper distance? You rejected me on our wedding night. You sleep with Clara while I'm in the next room. And now you're concerned about proper distance? Harris's jaw clenched. That's different. How? How is it different? Because... He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. Because you're the queen. Your behavior reflects on the kingdom. My behavior? I've done nothing but serve this kingdom since I arrived. I've healed your people, organized your chaotic healing wing, and earned genuine respect from your staff. What exactly about my behavior concerns you? You were too familiar with him. I was being helpful. Something you might try sometime. We stared at each other, the air thick with tension. I could see something burning in Harris's eyes, something wild and possessive that confused me. Stay away from Ronan, he said finally. No. His eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising. That's an order. You're my king, not my keeper. You made it clear we have a political arrangement. Nothing more. And that means you don't get to control who I speak with or how I spend my time. I turned and walked toward the door. Naomi? We're done here, Your Majesty. I left him standing there and went straight to my chambers. My hands were shaking with anger and confusion. What right did he have to be jealous? He'd rejected me, chosen Clara. Made it clear I was just a political necessity. But the look in his eyes, that hadn't been political. That had been possessive, territorial. I didn't understand it, didn't want to understand it. I had work to do, patients who needed me, a life to build. Harris Greystone and his confusing behavior would have to wait. Over the following week, Ronan became a genuine friend. He sought me out during breaks in his diplomatic meetings, always respectful, always interested in my work. And we had dinner together twice, perfectly innocent meals in the public dining hall where we discussed healing techniques and territory management. He made me laugh with stories from the Northern Territories, and for the first time since my wedding, I felt something like happiness. I didn't notice how often Harris appeared wherever Ronan and I happened to be. Didn't see the way his hands clenched when Ronan made me smile, or how his eyes tracked every movement when we walked together through the gardens. But others noticed. The king's been in a foul mood all week, Molly mentioned one morning while helping me organize supplies. Snapping at counselors, pacing his study at all hours. That's not my concern, I said, though something in my chest tightened. Isn't it? He watches you constantly, Your Majesty. Everyone's noticed. He feels guilty about the wedding night, nothing more. Molly gave me a look that said she didn't believe that for a second, but she didn't push. That evening, Ronan found me in the garden. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. I was sitting on a stone bench, taking a rare moment of rest after a long day in the clinic. May I join you? He asked. Of course. He sat beside me, close but not inappropriately so. We watched the sunset in comfortable silence. You know, Ronan said eventually, you deserve better than this. I looked at him. Then what? Then a political marriage to a man who doesn't see what's right in front of him. My throat tightened. It is what it is. It doesn't have to be. He turned to face me fully. Naomi, if things were different, if you weren't bound here, and I would court you properly, the way you deserve to be courted. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's kind of you to say. I mean it. He took my hand gently. You're remarkable, brilliant, and kind and strong. Any man would be lucky to have you. I smiled sadly, squeezing his hand. Thank you, Ronan. Truly. What I didn't know was that Harris stood in the shadows of the garden wall, watching, seeing Ronan take my hand, seeing the tender way Ronan looked at me, seeing my sad smile. Something inside Harris snapped. His wolf surged forward with violent force. His vision blurred, then sharpened. Gold flooded his eyes. His hands shifted partially, claws extending. Every instinct screamed the same word, mine. He wanted to attack, wanted to rip Ronan away from me, claim me right there, and make it clear to everyone that I belonged to him and him alone. The rational part of his mind knew that was insane. He'd rejected me. He had Clara. He had no right to this possessive fury. But his wolf didn't care about rights or logic or blood oaths. His wolf knew its mate when it saw her, and watching another male touch her was unbearable. Harris turned and ran. He fled into the forest beyond the palace walls, letting his wolf take over completely. He ran for hours, trying to outrun the confusion and rage and desperate need. When he finally returned at dawn, exhausted and covered in dirt, he stood outside my chamber's door. He could hear me breathing softly inside, asleep. The urge to go to me was overwhelming. Instead, he went to his own chambers and stared at himself in the mirror. His eyes were still slightly golden. His hair was wild, his clothes torn. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. He'd never felt this way with Clara. Never felt this consuming need to possess someone, protect them, be near them constantly. The blood oath pulled him toward Clara. Yes, but it felt like obligation. Duty. This, whatever this was with Naomi, felt like starving. The next morning, Harris sought out Elder Tessa Ravenshaw. She was the oldest living shifter in the kingdom, a seer who'd guided 3 generations of alphas. She lived in a tower room filled with herbs and ancient books, and Harris had been avoiding her since the wedding because he knew she'd see too much. She was expecting him. "Took you long enough, young king," she said, not looking up from the herbs she was grinding. "I need to understand something," Harris said. "You need to understand many things." "I'll be specific." "The blood oath with Clara. Why does it feel wrong?" Tessa finally looked at him, her ancient eyes sharp. "Because it is wrong. It was always wrong." "What do you mean?" "Sit down. This will take some explanation." Harris sat, his heart pounding. Tessa poured tea neither of them would drink and settled into her chair. "You were 12 when Maddox Ironwood performed the blood oath ritual, yes?" "Yes. Clara and I agreed to it together." "Did you? Or were you 2 manipulated children who didn't understand what they were binding themselves to?" Harris frowned. "We both consented." "Consent given under manipulation isn't true consent. Tell me, how did the ritual come about?" Harris thought back. "I fell during training, cut my arm badly. Clara helped me bind it, and her father was there. He suggested the blood oath would strengthen the bond between our families. And you, a bleeding 12-year-old in pain, agreed?" Yes." Tessa's expression hardened. "Maddox used your blood without your true understanding. He wanted his daughter to be queen, so he ensured you'd be bound to her before you could ever find your real mate." "My real mate?" "Your fated mate. The one chosen for you by the moon goddess herself." Harris's mouth went dry. "There's no such thing. Fated mates are myths." "Are they? Then explain why your wolf is obsessed with your wife. Why you can't stop watching her, thinking about her, feeling possessive rage when another male comes near." Don't lie to me, boy. Or to yourself. Naomi Fairchild is your fated mate. She always has been. The words hit Harris like a physical blow. "That's impossible." "Is it? Think about it. You courted her before the wedding, didn't you? Felt drawn to her in ways you couldn't explain?" He had. During those walks in the garden, those conversations, he'd felt something pulling him toward her. Something that went deeper than attraction or political advantage. The blood oath suppressed your ability to recognize the bond, Tessa continued. But fated mate bonds are powerful, stronger than any magic. Eventually, it fights through. That's what's happening now. Your wolf knows its mate, even if your conscious mind has been too stubborn to accept it. Harris stood, pacing. If this is true, why didn't you tell me before the wedding? Would you have listened? You were convinced the blood oath was real love. Sometimes people need to discover truth for themselves. How do I break it? Give the blood oath? Tessa's expression grew grave. That's the difficult part. Blood oaths typically require the death of one party to break. Or what? A stronger bond must override it. The fated mate bond could do it, but only if you complete the claiming ritual. The claiming ritual requires mutual consent and consummation. Yes. Harris thought of Naomi's cold formality, the way she looked through him like he was a stranger. She hates me. Then you have work to do. Tessa stood, moving to her window. And you'd better hurry. Why? Because Clara knows she's losing you. And desperate people do desperate things. Harris felt ice slide down his spine. What do you mean? I mean that Clara Ironwood is not a woman who accepts defeat gracefully. She's had access to the healing wing as your guest. She knows poisons and medicines, and she sees Naomi as the obstacle between her and the throne. Clara wouldn't she? Her father orchestrated a blood oath using a child's blood. You think his daughter is above murder? Harris ran from the tower without another word. He had to find Naomi, had to protect her, had to warn her. But when he found her in the healing wing, she was laughing with Ronan again, her whole face bright with joy, and the words died in his throat. How could he tell her she was in danger when she'd never believe he actually cared? How could he claim her as his mate when he'd rejected her on their wedding night? He'd made such a mess of everything. And now Naomi might pay the price. Clara had been planning this for days. She'd watched Harris's obsession with Naomi grow, watched the blood oath weaken. He felt the bond she'd taken for granted slipping away. She wasn't going to lose. Not to some common healer with dirt under her fingernails and a bleeding heart for sick peasants. If she couldn't have Harris, no one would. The Shadowbane poison was perfect. Slow acting, mimicking the symptoms of natural illness. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it would be too late. And Clara had the perfect cover. She'd been visiting the healing wing as part of her new interest in helping the people. Everyone would think she was trying to befriend Naomi. No one would suspect. She prepared the first dose carefully, mixing it into expensive tea leaves imported from the Eastern Territories. Then she carried the ornate tea set to Naomi's chambers. "Your Majesty," she said when Naomi opened the door, surprise clear on her face. I wondered if we might talk. I feel we started off poorly." Naomi's expression was guarded. "That's kind of you." "May I come in?" Naomi hesitated, then stepped aside. Clara entered, taking in the simple furnishings, the medical books stacked on every surface, the herbs drying by the window. "I brought tea," Clara said, setting down the tea set. "A peace offering." "I'm not sure what we have to make peace about," Naomi said carefully. "I know this situation is difficult, for all of us." Clara poured the tea, making sure to serve Naomi from the poisoned pot and herself from the safe one. "I thought perhaps we could find some understanding." "Understanding? You're the queen. I'm close to the king. We'll be seeing each other often. It would be easier if we weren't enemies." Naomi accepted the cup, though suspicion still lingered in her eyes. They made awkward small talk for 20 minutes. Clara kept her expression friendly, her tone light. Finally, she stood. "Thank you for hearing me out. I hope we can start fresh." "Perhaps," Naomi said diplomatically. After Clara left, Naomi stared at the tea for a long moment. Then, feeling foolish for being so suspicious, she drank it. It was actually delicious, fragrant and smooth, clearly expensive. That night, she felt a slight headache. Nothing serious. She attributed it to the long day and went to bed early. Clara watched Naomi's window from across the courtyard, a cold smile on her face. Let the game begin. Over the next 5 days, Clara visited twice more with peace offerings of tea. Naomi, wanting to give Clara the benefit of the doubt, accepted each time. With each dose, and the poison built into her system, the symptoms started slowly. Headaches that wouldn't go away, unusual fatigue, a persistent low fever. Naomi pushed through it, refusing to acknowledge that something might be wrong. She had patients who needed her. She couldn't afford to be weak. But on the 6th day, during a council meeting about territory borders, Naomi felt the room spin. She gripped the edge of the table, trying to focus, but the dizziness only got worse. "Your Majesty?" one of the counselors asked. "Are you well?" "I'm fine," she started to say, but the words came out slurred. Then her legs gave out. Harris moved with inhuman speed. He caught her before she hit the floor, pulling her against his chest. Her skin was burning hot despite the cool room. "Naomi?" He could hear the panic in his own voice. "Naomi, look at me!" Her eyes fluttered open, but they were unfocused. Dark veins were appearing under her skin, spreading from her neck toward her face. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "I don't feel—" She went limp in his arms. "Get every healer in the castle!" Harris roared. "Now!" He carried her to his chambers. They were closer, the bed larger. He laid her down carefully, his hands shaking. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when he'd just realized what she meant to him. Within minutes, 5 healers surrounded the bed, examining Naomi with increasing concern. "The fever is dangerously high," one said. "These dark veins. I've never seen anything like it. Could it be an infection?" "There's no wound." Harris stood beside the bed, feeling helpless. His wolf was going insane inside him, howling to protect its mate. But there was no enemy to fight, nothing he could do. Clara arrived, all false concern. "I heard what happened. How terrible. Let me examine her. I've studied rare poisons and toxins." Harris barely registered her words. He just needed Naomi to open her eyes. Clara performed what looked like a thorough examination, then stepped back, her expression grave. "The symptoms are complex. I'll need to prepare a special remedy. These herbs are delicate. It will take time." "How much time?" Harris demanded. "Hours. Maybe less if I work quickly." "Then go. Now." Clara left, and Harris sank into the chair beside Naomi's bed. He took her hand, careful of the dark veins spreading across her skin. "Don't leave me," he whispered. "Please, I know I don't deserve it, but don't leave me. I was a fool. I've been a fool since the moment I rejected you. But I see it now. I see you. You're everything. My mate. My fated mate. I should have known from the first moment. Should have fought the blood oath. Should have chosen you." Naomi didn't respond. Her breathing was shallow, labored. "I'll fix this," Harris promised. "Whatever it takes, I'll save you." But he had no idea how. Ronan had been watching Clara for days. Something about her had felt wrong from the start. Too smooth. Too calculating. When Harris had snapped at council meetings, when he'd seen the way Clara watched Naomi with cold eyes, Ronan's instincts had screamed warning. So he'd started following her. That evening, after Naomi collapsed, Ronan saw Clara slip into a storage room near the healing wing. He waited a few minutes, then followed. Through the cracked door, he saw her mixing vials, and her expression twisted with satisfaction. "Just a little more," she muttered to herself. "Soon she'll be too weak to save." Ronan's blood ran cold. She was the poisoner. He kicked the door open. Clara spun, her eyes wide with shock. "What have you done?" Ronan demanded. Clara's surprise quickly shifted to calculation. She reached for something on the table. A blade, maybe, or another vial of poison. Ronan was faster. He crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed her wrist, twisting until she cried out and dropped what she'd been reaching for. "Tell me what you gave her," he said, his voice deadly calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." He spotted the vials on the table, brought one to his nose. The smell was unmistakable. "Shadowbane, you're killing her." Clara laughed, the sound unhinged. "She took everything from me. Harris was mine. The throne was mine. That pathetic little healer ruined everything." "You're insane." "Maybe, but it's too late. The poison's been building for days. Without the antidote, she'll die by tomorrow." Ronan's grip tightened. "Then you'll give us the antidote." "Why would I do that?" "Because I'll drag you before the king, and he'll make you wish you'd never been born." Ronan hauled Clara out of the storage room, through the corridors, and into Harris's chambers where Naomi lay dying. Harris was still beside the bed, holding her hand, his face drawn with fear. "Harris," Ronan said, "we have a problem." Harris looked up, saw Clara struggling in Ronan's grip, and his eyes flashed gold. "She's the poisoner," Ronan said. "I caught her in the act. Shadowbane poison. She's been dosing Naomi for days." Harris stood slowly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. When he spoke, his voice was barely human. "Explain." Clara tried to pull free from Ronan, but his grip was iron. "It's not what he says. He's lying." "I found her mixing more poison," Ronan interrupted, showing the vials. "She admitted everything. Said Naomi took you from her." Harris's partial transformation was instant. Claws, fangs, pure alpha power radiating from him in waves that made even Ronan step back. "Give me the antidote," Harris said, each word precise and terrifying. "Now." Clara's defiance crumbled in the face of his rage, but she rallied with desperate malice. "There isn't one. Not one I'm willing to provide. If I can't have you, she can't either." Harris lunged. Ronan barely caught him, holding him back with all his strength. "You'll watch her die," Clara spat, tears streaming down her face now. "Just like I've had to watch you fall for her. You were mine. The blood oath. The blood oath was a lie," Harris roared. "Forced on me when I was a child, before I could find my real mate. He gestured to Naomi's still form, "is my true mate. Chosen by the moon goddess herself. You never had me. You never could." Clara's face crumpled. "No, that's not—" "Guards!" Harris's command brought 6 armed men running. "Arrest her. Lock her in the deepest cell we have." As the guards dragged Clara away, she screamed, "You'll never save her. She's already dying. You'll lose her just like I lost you." The door slammed behind them, leaving Harris, Ronan, and the dying Naomi in terrible silence. "There has to be something," Harris said desperately. "Some cure. There is one way." Both men turned to find Elder Tessa standing in the doorway. Harris didn't question how she'd known to come. "Tell me," Harris said. "Anything." "The mate's blood cure. Your alpha blood, given through the claiming ritual, can purge any poison. Your bond with her is that powerful." "Then let's do it. Now." "It's not that simple." Tessa moved to Naomi's bedside, examining the dark veins. "She'll have to be conscious. The ritual requires her participation, and it will be agonizing for both of you. Your blood will fight the poison inside her body, and you'll feel every moment of her pain through the bond. I don't care about the pain. There's more. If the bond isn't real, if I'm wrong about you being fated mates, the ritual will kill her. The alpha blood will reject her system entirely." Harris looked at Naomi's pale face, the dark veins spreading across her skin. "The bond is real. I know it is. I feel it every time I see her, every time she's near. My wolf knows its mate." Tessa nodded. Then prepare yourself, young king. This will break you both before it heals her. I'm ready. We'll need to wake her first, and she'll need to consent. Tessa mixed something from her bag, a sharp-smelling tincture that she waved under Naomi's nose. After a moment, Naomi's eyes fluttered open. What? Her voice was barely a whisper. Harris knelt beside the bed, taking her hand. Naomi, can you hear me? Her green eyes found his face. Harris? What happened? Clara poisoned you. You're very sick, but I'm going to save you. Save me? There's a ritual, the mate's blood cure. I'll give you my blood, and it will purge the poison. But you have to agree. You have to trust me. Naomi's eyes were closing again. Trust you? You rejected me. I know. I was wrong. About everything. You're my fated mate, Naomi. The one chosen for me. I've been too blind and too controlled by the blood oath to see it. But I see it now. Please, let me save you. A tear slid down her cheek. Fated mates. That's a myth. It's not. I swear to you, it's real. We're real. Let me prove it. Let me save you. She looked at him for a long moment, and he saw the war in her eyes. The hurt he'd caused fighting against the hope that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. Okay, she whispered finally. I trust you. Harris felt something break open in his chest. Thank you. I won't let you down again. I swear it. Tessa handed him a ceremonial blade. Make the cut deep. The blood needs to flow freely. Harris didn't hesitate. He drew the blade across his palm, feeling it bite deep. Blood welled up immediately, dark red and potent with alpha magic. Now, Tessa said, hold her close. She needs to drink while you channel your power into her. Harris lifted Naomi carefully, supporting her against his chest. She was so light, so fragile. He pressed his bleeding palm to her lips. Drink, my love, he said softly. At first, she was too weak. Then his wolf surged forward, and he couldn't help the alpha command that rolled through his words. Drink. The command compelled her. Her lips parted, and she began to drink his blood. The reaction was immediate and violent. Naomi's back arched. A scream ripped from her throat, raw and agonized. The dark veins pulsed, writhing beneath her skin like living shadows fighting against the alpha blood. Harris felt it all. Every ounce of her pain crashed into him through the emerging bond. It was like being torn apart from the inside. But he held her tighter, pouring more power into her, refusing to let go. Fight it, he begged. Fight the poison, Naomi. Come back to me. Inside Naomi's body, a war was raging. The poison wanted to drag her down into darkness, but Harris's blood, his power, his essence, burned through her like golden fire. It hurt. It hurt worse than anything she'd ever experienced. She wanted to give up, to let the darkness take her. But then she heard Harris's voice, raw with emotion. You're mine. You've always been mine, and I will not lose you. Something deep inside her responded. A warmth that had nothing to do with fever or poison. A connection that felt older than time itself. Mine, she thought. Yours. The bond snapped into place with the force of a lightning strike. Golden light flooded the room. Candles flared impossibly bright. Wind whipped through the closed space, making ancient scrolls dance. The dark veins began to recede. Naomi's screams faded to whimpers. Her eyes, which had gone completely white with pain, slowly returned to their normal green. Harris felt the shift, felt the poison losing its grip, felt Naomi's essence reaching back toward his through the bond. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, Naomi's body went still. For one terrible moment, Harris thought they'd failed, that he'd lost her. No, he whispered desperately. Naomi, please. Then her eyes opened. Clear, focused, alive. Harris? He laughed through tears. He didn't know he was crying. I'm here. You're here. You came back. The bond pulsed between them, warm and golden and absolutely unbreakable. They both felt it. A connection that went soul deep. What is this? Naomi whispered, touching her chest where she could feel the warmth radiating. Our bond, Harris said. The fated mate bond. It's real, Naomi. You're my mate, my true mate, marked by the moon goddess herself. Tears streamed down her face. But the blood oath, Clara, the blood oath is broken. The moment our bond completed, it shattered. Clara and her father used manipulation and dark magic, but it was never real. You are. This is real. I felt it, Naomi said softly. During our courtship, I thought I was imagining the pull between us. You weren't. My wolf knew even when I was too blind to see it. I'm so sorry, Naomi. For the wedding night, for pushing you away, for being too stubborn to recognize what was right in front of me. She reached up and touched his face, feeling the bond hum at the contact. You're here now. That's what matters. Harris caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. I love you. Not because of fate or bonds or magic. Because you're brave and brilliant and stronger than anyone I've ever known. Because when I see you, I see home. I love you too, Naomi whispered. Even though you made me cry on our wedding night. Harris winced. Will you ever let me forget that? Probably not, but I'll let you make it up to me. He smiled, really smiled, for what felt like the first time in forever. Then he kissed her, soft and reverent and full of promise, and the bond flared gold, sealing completely. They were whole. They were home. They were finally, truly together. The next morning, Clara Ironwood was exiled to the furthest territory in the kingdom, stripped of her title, and forbidden from ever returning. Counselor Maddox Ironwood was removed from his position and placed under house arrest, pending investigation into the forced blood oath. Harris made a public declaration in the Great Hall, with Naomi standing beside him, still weak, but healing rapidly thanks to the alpha blood. The kingdom deserves truth, Harris said to the assembled nobles and staff. For years, I was bound by a blood oath I didn't fully consent to as a child. That oath has been broken. Naomi Fairchild is my true mate, chosen by the moon goddess herself. She is your queen in every sense of the word. The room erupted in cheers. The staff had already loved Naomi. Now the nobles, seeing the obvious bond between their king and queen, accepted it as well. Naomi squeezed Harris's hand, feeling the bond pulse warmly between them. That afternoon, Ronan prepared to depart. He found Naomi in the garden, tending to the herbs that had grown wild during her illness. You're leaving, she said, standing to greet him. My work here is done, and I think you have everything you need now. Naomi hugged him tightly. Thank you, Ronan, for saving my life, for being my friend when I needed one. You would have done the same for me. He pulled back, smiling. I'm glad you found your happiness, even if it took that stubborn wolf far too long to see what was right in front of him. Harris approached from the palace, and the two men clasped hands. Take care of her, Ronan said, or I'll come back and challenge you for her. I will, Harris promised. Every day for the rest of my life. Ronan left with a wave, and Naomi leaned against Harris's side. I'll miss him, she said. So will I. He's a good friend, and he saw what I was too blind to see. You see it now. That's what matters. Over the following weeks, Naomi's clinic thrived with Harris's full support. They worked together. He handled the political aspects of healthcare policy while she managed the actual healing. It was a true partnership, built on mutual respect and love. One evening, they sat together in the garden where Ronan had once held her hand. And now it was Harris beside her, their fingers intertwined, the bond humming contentedly between them. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Naomi asked. "No," Harris admitted, "but I'm grateful every day that it did. I was walking through life blind, bound by magic I didn't understand, too stubborn to question what I thought I knew. You broke through all of that. You saved me just as much as I saved you." "We saved each other," Naomi corrected. Harris pulled her close. "I love you, Naomi Fairchild Greystone. Not because the moon goddess chose you for me, though I'm grateful she did, but because you're kind and brave and brilliant. Because you see people, really see them, and you use your gifts to help them. Because when I see you smile, my whole world lights up." Naomi felt tears of happiness slip down her cheeks. "I love you too, even though you're terrible at expressing emotions and you brood too much." He laughed. "I'm working on that." "I know, and I'll be here, every step of the way." They kissed as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The bond between them glowed warm and certain, a promise that had been written in the stars long before either of them was born. They'd found their way to each other through pain and rejection and poison and blood. But they'd made it. And now, together, they would build something beautiful. Forever. 6 months later, Naomi stood in the healing wing, examining a child with a broken arm. The boy had fallen from a tree, and while the break was bad, it was nothing she couldn't handle. "This is going to feel warm," she warned him. "Ma, but it won't hurt." She placed her hands over the break and let her magic flow. The boy's eyes widened as he felt the bone knitting back together, the pain fading. "That's amazing," he breathed. "You're all set. But no more climbing trees for at least 2 weeks. Understand?" "Yes, Your Majesty. Thank you." As the boy's mother led him away with grateful tears, Naomi felt Harris approach before she saw him. The bond always alerted her when he was near. "Another successful healing?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Just a broken bone. Nothing dramatic." "Everything you do is dramatic to those you help." She turned in his arms to face him. "What are you doing here? Don't you have a council meeting?" "It can wait. But I wanted to see my mate." "Your mate is covered in healing salve and hasn't brushed her hair in hours." "My mate is perfect." Naomi laughed and kissed him. Even after 6 months, the bond still sent warmth through her every time they touched. "There's something I need to tell you," she said softly. "What is it?" She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "I'm pregnant, about 6 weeks along." Harris froze. Then his face transformed with joy so pure it took her breath away. "We're having a baby?" "We're having